I thought for a long time about whether I should tell this story at all, not because I did something wrong, but because even now, after everything is over, I still struggle to believe how far an ordinary person can go when they're given even a small amount of imagined authority. If you live in a neighborhood with an HOA, you may already feel a sense of tension just hearing that acronym. And if you don't, trust me, by the end of this story, you'll be glad you never had to deal with one like this. What happened didn't start on the morning I found my lock cut. That moment was just the breaking point. The explosion. The truth is, everything began much earlier. Back then, I just didn't know I was already being watched. When I first moved into this neighborhood, it felt almost perfect. Clean streets, neatly trimmed lawns, kids riding bicycles in the evenings, neighbors waving politely as they passed by. The HOA seemed harmless. Just an organization that cared about grass length, trash cans, and paint colors. Nothing more. I owned a Jeep. Old, scratched, and far from flashy but reliable. That Jeep had been with me through years of work, stress, and long nights. It mattered to me. I always parked it. No shortcuts. No gray areas. I'm the kind of person who follows regulations carefully. If there's a rule, I follow it. Not because I'm afraid, but because it keeps life simple. That's why the first note unsettled me so much. One morning, I found a piece of paper tucked neatly under my windshield wiper. No signature. No date. It read, "This vehicle violates the visual standards of the neighborhood. Correct this immediately." I laughed at first. I assumed it was a mistake. That was my first mistake. A few days later, a woman in her early 50s. Perfect hair. Perfect posture. Always holding a clipboard or a folder. She stood outside her house and stared at my Jeep. Not casually. Not briefly. She stared at it like it offended her on a personal level. The first time she spoke to me, there was no greeting. "You know, vehicles like that aren't welcome here," she said. I answered calmly. "I know the HOA rules. I'm not breaking any of them." She smiled. But it wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who had already decided that you were the problem. From that moment on, the pressure began. Every week, another letter. Always vague. Never citing specific sections of the rules. I replied professionally. I attached excerpts from the HOA handbook. I asked for clarification. Every single time, silence. But the letters kept coming. Eventually, something started to feel very wrong. I noticed the complaints always arrived on days when my Jeep hadn't moved. On weekends. On holidays. That's when I realized she knew my schedule. Then came the moment that truly crossed the line. I returned home. Someone had touched it. Not me. I checked my security. There she was. Standing next to my Jeep. Not touching it. Just staring. Taking photos. That was the moment it clicked. This wasn't about HOA rules anymore. This was obsession. I decided to stop being patient. I sent an official, included video evidence, asked a direct question. Why is a board member repeatedly approaching and documenting my private property? The reply came a week later. Short, cold, dismissive. No violations by HOA representatives have been identified. That's when the realization hit me. She wasn't just part of the HOA. She was the HOA. Later, I learned she had filed complaints against neighbors for years. Some eventually moved, some sold their homes, others simply gave up. Then came the morning. I stepped outside. The air was calm. The street was silent. And on the ground, pieces of metal. My lock had been cut. At first, I didn't feel anger. I felt emptiness. Because when something like that happens, you understand one thing immediately. A line has been crossed. Then I saw her, standing across the street, arms crossed, a satisfied look on her face. "The HOA handled it," she said. "The vehicle will be removed." I asked, "Who gave you permission?" She didn't hesitate. "I have the authority." Those words would destroy her. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain. Some things are better. The Jeep she called junk was registered as part of an operational vehicle pool. The lock she cut was installed under official protocol. I made one phone call. 20 minutes later, the street felt different. No sirens. No flashing lights. Just vehicles. Calm people. Confident movements. When the officer asked who damaged the vehicle, she tried to step away. But there were cameras, witnesses, and her own words. She started talking. Fast. Too much. With every sentence, things got worse, because it turned out she acted without authorization. She forged official notices. She abused her position. and she had done this before. The biggest surprise came later. The officer returned to me and said, "You're not the first." There were already open complaints that had never been completed. People were tired, afraid, worn down. This time, everything aligned. The HOA held an emergency meeting. She didn't attend. A week later, she was stripped of all authority. The HOA was fined. Multiple decisions were reversed. And her? She sold her house. Quietly, without explanations, without goodbyes. The Jeep is still parked in the same spot. Completely legal. And I learned something important. Sometimes the most dangerous person isn't a criminal. It's someone who truly believes they're untouchable.